Hello, everybody. Here are my thoughts for Mission Impossible 7, or as you like to call it, Dead Reckoning Part 1. Hey, this film was a lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I saw it in Dolby because that was the best time for me this evening. And this is going to be full of spoilers, okay? But my non-spoiler here right at the very beginning, super high-octane action, smart script, sophisticated characters, impeccable acting, really good fight scenes, and definitely worth the price of admission as soon as you can go see this movie. Highly recommend in the biggest screen possible, be it IMAX or Dolby or whatever works for you. Whew! All right. Talking about the marketing for this film, almost everybody has seen the stunt, okay? You know what I'm talking about. That stunt of Tom Cruise going over the cliff and parachuting. It is still an absolute thrill to watch that in the movie. And you could just feel the audible gasp, or I should say the silence as well, of seeing that stunt happen in the film. And in the context of what's happening in the film, it builds up to that moment, and it's a great payoff. So you have to think as a creative, as a director, are we revealing too much in the marketing campaign of showing this stunt? And that was my fear going into the film of, well, I've already seen, the special behind-the-scenes look that they would play before movies in theaters, and it totally holds up. So I think that they made the right decision in order to have the tip of the spear action moment be part of the big marketing drive, because so many people behind the scenes made this stunt happen, all the way up to Tom Cruise doing it multiple times in order to get the shot. It's movie magic. This is what you cannot get with CG, okay? You talk about other films that have come out this summer that are nothing but CG slogfests. It is boring. It's boring. You do not feel bored watching people run in real life in this movie, and Tom Cruise does a lot of running. All right, let's talk about the plot. Very beginning of the movie. It is about Russians in a sub that have this AI, and it goes through a sequence that has you at the edge of your seat and is very well acted, scripted, and going for the choice of them speaking English for most of it, and they were in Russian in some other parts. It worked fine. They were trying to give you the stakes right at the beginning, and I thought it was an excellent introduction to really tell the story of what the MacGuffin is and how dangerous it is. And this MacGuffin is AI. It's an AI program that is able to already penetrate everywhere in cyberspace, and this algorithm is able to know the steps that you're going to make before you even make them. And that is quite an asset for any type of military. And it explains that very well. And even in your mind thinking of, well, is this too much power for one man? Is it appropriate for any military, including the United States government, with our military industrial complex and being the current waning empire of the world? Maybe not the best idea. So having that as the greater thought, but making it simple enough that anybody could contemplate it. It's an age-old story. Can one person have that much power? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Saving Ilsa at the beginning. I was scared. I was scared she was dead at the beginning, man, because I have the hugest crush on Rebecca Ferguson and Haley Atwell and pretty much every woman that's in this movie, all right? Let's be real. Everybody is phenomenal. Man, woman, they're all great. But especially how the women were portrayed by these wonderful actresses, but how they express themselves in action. And within that action, having to fight against a tougher, more masculine opponent, and the intricacies of what it takes to go up against somebody that is heavier, taller, more bone density. It's tough, all right? And to be able to choreograph that in a way that gives the power to these women to stand up against these men, but not make them not set it in fantasy, but set it in reality, So you were rooting for the good guys in these fights, but just seeing, Palm Klementov taking some hits and seeing her do this incredible fight scene down this hallway with the other actor. He was credited, but I didn't know his name. But just that sequence and seeing how well she was able to be a physical threat. The femme fatales in this film are very, very well done. Very well done. And I wouldn't want to come across any of them in a dark alley. They're all stellar. But especially Ilse at the beginning. I mean, sniping. When she had the eye patch in the trailer, I thought, did she get damaged? in a fight? Did her eye get damaged, or is she using that in order to block the dust so she can see through the scope? And it was to block the dust. So I was like, all right, nobody better hurt my Ilsa, but we'll talk more about that a little bit later. The IMF. So this other scene at the beginning of the film sets this tone in a really great way, and it pays off a little bit later. But it's when this delivery guy, who's actually an IMF agent, is delivering a message. And Ethan Hunt, Tom Cruise's character, tells him, hey, congratulations on making the choice. You made the right choice. And that choice comes up later. What is that choice? The choice is to join the IMF or go to jail. Or the third alternative, where you get buried 6 feet under. Tom Cruise running in movies since the 1980s, but he does a phenomenal job as Ethan Hunt, delivering the dialogue when he needs to, feeling that sense of emotional weight of trying to save his friends. With Ilsa, somebody more than just a friend. But that can also be the kryptonite of Ethan Hunt for a lot of heroes. It's your friends being in danger. But his team, Benji, Luther, and Ilsa, are all there. And you could feel a bit of the shooting schedule with COVID of seeing Benji and Luther, on devices talking to each other, using computers. It's still within character, but sometimes I'm like, oh, they're in a room by themselves. They're probably in their own pod for COVID back when that was happening. Haley Atwell. I mean, wife, she is absolutely gorgeous. I've got a crush on her too. I got a crush on everybody in this movie, all the women. The Grace character is a thief and is just wrapped up into a much bigger world that now that she's involved in, you get to see the path of these other agents, Benji, Luther, and Ethan, how they came to be in a way of this choice being presented in front of them. And later on, Grace has to make that same choice. I really, really like the Grace character because she was capable within her own realm of being a thief, but once she saw this much larger world, she was scared. She was scared, but still was making decisions, was still driving her own destiny forward, or at least trying to, and still trying to get out and away from Ethan as much as she could in order to get away from this mess. But this mess just kept catching up to her over and over again. And so once she had to make that choice, it really felt like a great character journey for her. And the way that Haley Atwell acted, both when she was terrified, when she got hit in the car and the airbag went off and she was stunned, you can feel that she was stunned and she was trying to collect herself. It was grounded so much in reality, but adding just on panache of fantasy or heightened reality of just, so many action scenes paid off so well. I mean, these characters are going to stick with you because they're so cool. Even when they're scared, they're cool. The car chases, the vehicle, absolutely wonderful. Saw a lot of it during the marketing campaign for sure, especially Venice. That was a great time. The menace of Paris, that's the name of the character that was chasing them, when she's driving that truck and just being destructive and hitting all sorts of stuff, was a ton of fun. In the contrast to the Fiat, this James Bond-esque, super spy Fiat getting around everywhere and having a little bit more of a boost to their engines and stuff, was a good time. The best nuanced approach that they had to this car chase was Haley Atwell and Tom Cruise being handcuffed together, Ethan and Grace being handcuffed, and having to figure that out and who sits where and who's going to drive and who has the wheel. And that added just a neat layer to a car chase. And you've seen one car chase, you've seen them all type vibe, but it was so character focused that it made everything that was happening in the chase just more heightened. So when you have two characters that have chemistry, that are still trying to figure stuff out of what they're going to do in terms of Ethan's mission and Grace getting out of there, but working together in that sense, you as the audience was really rooting for them. So I felt that making it more character focused. I'm trying to think, did they focus that more than the action? No, the action's, it's amazing. The car chase is wonderful, but the combination of the action and the character drama happening together is what made the car chase more memorable compared to other car chases that maybe came out this summer and other quote-unquote blockbusters. Anyways, we'll talk. I'll have my review for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny sometime later, but I did not enjoy that film and I almost walked out twice. And I had felt watching this film, I'm like, this is what Indiana Jones should have been. Not this action intense, obviously, when you have somebody that old with Harrison Ford, but to the character level of the interaction of the characters and the stakes rising because of the character dilemma. That's a different story. All right, the train sequence. The train sequence is one of those action sequences that just keeps topping itself, and it keeps going, and my mouth goes more agape watching it, because having, again, the blocking, the build-up, the panic, the feeling within the character's eyes. Like, you can see it in their eyes when they're really in character and they're in that scene. You can tell the character is afraid that they have to do something like jumping across inside of a train car. The heightened stakes. I keep using the word heightened, I know, but this movie, again, felt so grounded in reality, yet heightened in the way they were able to execute the different action sequences. That there were times where I'm like, okay, that's green screen, but there were a lot of times where it was not. And I feel that's like so key to capture an audience these days. Then most of the film is not on a green screen. Audience is like, thank you for your artistry. All right, so the train sequence is bafflingly good. I'm sure people are going to make full-on sequences, full-on YouTube clips of it years later to study how they're able to do the action. The implications of the train sequence of so many different interested parties being there, from the CIA director to Gabriel, who's representing the entity, the AI. And then you have the special forces agents, the clandestine two agents, where I loved having their dialogue back and forth, kind of the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern gentlemen, of talking about the morality of should anybody have this key, and kind of thinking about the bigger picture. And to have men that are just trying to do their jobs realize, like, wait a second, this job is bigger than just a paycheck, and it's bigger than patriotism. Something that's bigger than patriotism, folks. I mean, that's what this movie does explore. And the mission being more important than your friends' lives, that's a tough call. That's something that Ethan does not want to accept. But unfortunately, we do lose somebody in this film, folks. And what a buildup it was between Tom Cruise trying to get there, Ethan Hunt trying to get there, running as fast as he can, and Grace doing the best that she can against Gabriel. But it was Ilsa showing up and having one hell of a fight scene. But unfortunately, she doesn't make it. And just as the algorithm predicts, one of them will be killed between Grace and Ilsa, and it is Ilsa, stabbed right to the heart. It's very sad. And when you cut to the next scene with Benji and Luthor discussing stuff with Grace, and Grace also recognizes the impact of what just happened, Benji's wiping away his tears before he walks into the room. And it's a moment that happens for a second, maybe 2 seconds. But it's so important to have that. To have just that brief moment of sadness, for that character. Whew. But you could feel it. You could feel the anger in Ethan Hunt, but also the machinations of the machine, knowing that, well, Ethan's now going to kill Gabriel, and if Gabriel's the only one that knows what this key can do, then the AI is saved. So Luthor and Benji explaining, I think it was Luthor explaining this to Ethan, like, what if the machine wants you to kill Gabriel, and that way it's protecting itself. And you're like, bro, this is Minority Report. This is Minority Report, man. Having this entity knowing every move, being cold and calculating, even when Paris isn't killed by Ethan, when Palm Clementoff's character is not killed. He could have killed her, but he does not, and you see that look of just shock and reservation on her face. And when Gabriel's like, you're going to betray me because he saved your life. Ethan saved your life. And like, the machine's going to put that into this, what could happen within the mainframe of human potential. Like, because Ethan saved your life, you're going to betray him later. And that's what happens, bro. That's what happens. But after she, fights Gabriel and takes a knife wound to the gut. But on that train moment, man, I don't know how they're going to get out of there. And then bam, here comes Paris to help them one more time. But she heard from Carrie Ells' character, from the director of, I believe it's National Intelligence, that gets killed because he wanted the key. She hears that what the key is to this submarine named after a city in Russia, and on the submarine is the source code. And the only way to stop this algorithm is to stop it at the source. But she's not dead. Pom Klementov's character still has a pulse, as the two secret agents that were part of this whole shindig check, and she may be back for the sequel. Who knows, folks? But what a great combination of characters around a certain MacGuffin that is very relevant to today, that a lot of entities want to have no matter the costs. You understand the reasons why, different villains or people are doing what they're doing, but you are motivated that the good guys win. You want them to win, but at what cost, bro? At what cost? At what cost? And there's something that Ethan says when he says to Grace, because she's going on a mission, that Grace's life is more important than Ethan's. And Grace said, you don't even know me. And Ethan says, why does that matter? I'm like, there it is. There it is. There it is. That's that oath. That's that deep down seated, why do you do this vibe, for the greater good. And the greater good is making sure that people can live in peace. And sometimes that goes beyond patriotism. Woo! I'm noticing I have a blue tongue. I totally got an icy when I was watching this film. It's an action film. Got to get an icy. All right, so the entity knowing your every move, being cold and calculating. So how can you defeat an entity such as that? Do you have to become cold and calculating itself? Or do you have to lean more into your humanity to beat it? Or you just, use the key and take it out. But those questions are being asked during the film. And I think a lot of these questions are being asked in real life, especially with some of these potential occurrences in war games and other asset management battles people will have once more AI resources are discovered, or at least faster or more efficient. It's definitely something to think about. It's definitely something to think about. All right, so moving into the ending of the movie, it is part 1. Part 2, not sure when it's going to be happening, but it ends right where it needs to. There's this final monologue happening towards the end. I'm like, okay, the movie's going to end here. And it ends at a great spot because you need to take a breath after so much is happening. This is the threat of AI, really, the temptation of that power. And that's what I'm going to be thinking about a lot after this film, and how well executed this story was of characters and people and caring about people more than just some cold, calculated moves. The direction of this film is absolutely fantastic. It was very beautifully shot. Director of photography should be very proud. The editing, for the most part, was very good. There was one place that was kind of odd. It was an ADR choice, because in the marketing, you hear Haley Atwell say, it's like Tom Cruise's character, Ethan Hunt, this is towards the beginning of the movie, he says, when I run, you need to run. And she's like, what, in these heels? Funny joke, but that's in the marketing. In the movie, they changed the line to something else. And I don't remember what it was, but it took me out of it. Like, oh, that's different, and it didn't match her lips. And why did they take that out? In these heels was just funny. There are a couple times, one time in particular, one of the characters says the F word, but you don't hear it audibly. You can just make it out in the lips. And I'm like, well, they still keep it PG-13. If you get one. I think when it comes to the direction, with the more intimate fight scenes, they could have used a few more longer takes, a couple more oneers, because oneers make me, an audience member, physically lean more, but also my attention more into the scene. And the style, the fighting style, especially with those knives on that bridge, was a very beautiful shot. But having and they did a couple great wide shots with Rebecca Ferguson using her speed to try to get further away from Gabriel's character before going in for another strike. But I would have liked to have had one of those shots just linger longer for the wide shot. Show the choreography in a way that we can appreciate it more. I understand you have to hide all sorts of different things when you're trying to choreograph a fight, and that's why the editing is there to help mask a lot of different areas. But when you're able to have these longer one takes, especially during a fight scene, it shows off the master artistry of all these different elements coming together, from the prop department to the stage production to the fighting coordinators. the armorers, and the director and the DP and the sound mix and everything. They're able to all come together to showcase something beautiful, have it be one longer take. That's what I would do as a director. And this is for not just Christopher McQuarrie, this is for every director out there. If you have an opportunity to do a one-er take, especially if it's for action, fighting action, people, hand-to-hand combat, knives, etc., do it. Because that's what I want out of this next Mortal Kombat film. And that's what I shouted from the rooftops at the producer on Twitter. People still use Twitter these days. I don't know. Twitter seems to be on the downside, but we'll see. But I told him, hey man, you've got to have one-ers. You got to have one takes, one long take on some of these fight scenes, because it would just really showcase the artistry. All right, everybody. So that's my review for Mission Impossible 7, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. What did you think? Was it worth the wait? I think it totally was. I think it's going to make a lot of money. Will it make as much money as Top Gun Maverick from last summer? Maybe. This is top tier action. It really, really is. And I definitely recommend that you go see it in the biggest screen possible. That's going to do it for me in this review. Thanks so much, as always, for supporting the channel. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you online.